The story of two brothers, a reflection on filial piety, karma, and the eternal law of cause and effect. Long ago, during the Tang dynasty, in a remote village nestled among mountains and fields, there lived two brothers who were born of the same parents, but carried two very different fates. The elder brother was known as Zhang Daliang, while the younger was Zhang Erlang. Though they shared the same bloodline, their hearts, choices, and actions were as different as night and day. What unfolded between them and their mother has been told for generations as a story of karmic retribution and the timeless truth of filial piety, a lesson that transcends centuries and remains relevant to the human soul today. Zhang Daliang, the elder brother, was known for his simple, honest nature. Life did not favor him with wealth, but it did endow him with humility and a heart full of devotion. He lived in poverty, working hard each day just to sustain his small family. His wife shared his burdens, and though the household never saw abundance, it was held together by honesty and effort. Most importantly, Zhang Daliang loved and respected his mother deeply. For him, she was not merely an old woman in the household, but the very root of his existence, the one who had given him life and nurtured him. Even in hunger and hardship, his first thought was always for her well-being. The younger brother, Zhao Yueniang, was cleverer in the ways of the world and far more fortunate in wealth. He was quick-tongued, shrewd in trade, and his house was larger and more prosperous. To the villagers, he appeared successful, the kind of man who could talk his way into fortune. Yet behind this glitter lay a darker truth. Erlang was selfish, cold-hearted, and, worst of all, unfilial. He considered their aged mother a burden and felt no gratitude for the years she had spent raising them. To him, an old woman who could not work or produce wealth was nothing more than a mouth to feed. In his heart, he wished she would disappear, so his household could be freer and lighter. As time went on, the mother, already old and frail, became more dependent on her children. Following custom, she divided her time between the households of the two brothers, spending half a year with one and then moving to the other. When she stayed with Zhang Daliang, though he was poor, he and his wife did everything they could to make her comfortable. They often went hungry themselves, but ensured that she was fed. They washed her clothes, prepared a warm place for her to sleep, and spoke to her with kindness. Daliang believed that heaven watched over the filial, and no matter how hard life became, he would never neglect his duty as a son. But when she stayed with Zhang Yueniang, life was bitter. Though his household had plenty, he gave her meager food, sometimes cold leftovers, sometimes scraps unfit for a parent. His wife resented the old woman's presence and whispered complaints that the household was being drained by this useless elder. Erlang not only listened but encouraged her resentment, mocking his mother for her frailty. On cold nights, she was given thin blankets. On hot days, she was left alone in suffocating rooms. Each passing day with Erlang was like a silent torment for the old woman. But she endured, saying little, for the pain of realizing a son's lack of love cuts deeper than hunger or cold. The villagers noticed the stark difference. Whenever they visited Daliang's modest home, they saw him gently serving his mother, adjusting her seat, asking about her comfort. His neighbors admired his devotion, and though his clothes were patched and his meals simple, they said, "Here lies true wealth, the wealth of virtue." When they visited Erlang, they sensed the coldness. The mother's eyes were often downcast, and though she rarely spoke ill of her younger son, her silence revealed the unspoken truth. Time passed, and heaven, as it always does, began to weigh the scales. One year, heavy rains came to the region. Torrents of water fell from the skies, swelling the rivers, softening the mountainsides. It was the season when nature tested humanity. The villagers prayed for safety, for no one could resist the force of earth when it chose to shift. During this time, something remarkable occurred that revealed the hidden balance of karma. One evening, as the rains continued to pour, the mother expressed a deep yearning. She wished she could go to Mount Tai, the sacred mountain, to offer prayers for her family. But she was frail, unable to walk long distances, and her sons could not afford such a journey. Erlang scoffed at her desire, dismissing it as nonsense, saying, "An old woman like you should stay home. What use is climbing mountains?" But Daliang listened with a heavy heart. Though he had no means to take her to Mount Tai, he thought of another way. He bowed before his mother and said, "Mother, I may not have the strength or wealth to carry you to the sacred mountain, but I will walk in our courtyard every day, step after step, until I have walked the number of steps it would take to reach Mount Tai. Each step I take, I dedicate as if I were carrying you there." His words moved her to tears. True devotion, she realized, was not measured by reaching the mountain, but by the heart that sought to honor her wish. And so, every day, rain or shine, Daliang walked. He counted his steps faithfully, circling the small yard, day after day, until his footsteps wore paths into the earth. 720,000 steps he pledged to take, equal to the journey. The villagers began to notice. Some mocked him, saying, "What foolishness, wasting time pacing in circles." But others were deeply touched. They whispered, "This is filial piety beyond measure. Though he cannot carry her to the mountain, his sincerity is greater than any offering." The mother herself felt blessed beyond words, her heart warmed by the devotion of her elder son. Yet fate had more to unfold. One night, the rain grew heavier than ever before. The rivers swelled into furious torrents, and the earth shook as landslides roared down from the mountains. The village was thrown into chaos. People scrambled to protect their families, praying that their homes would survive. In the midst of this disaster, the heavens delivered their judgment. The landslide struck the home of Zhang Yueniang. His house, though large and well-built, stood directly in the path of the collapsing hillside. In an instant, soil and stone crushed everything in its way. Erlang, his wife, and his children were buried alive. None survived. His wealth, his pride, and his scorn for his mother all vanished in a single night of thunder and mud. The villagers, though shocked, could not help but see the hand of karma at work. Daliang's modest home, however, stood unharmed. Though rainwater flooded the fields, his house was spared. When dawn came, the villagers gathered, shaken by what they had witnessed. Many said, "Heaven has eyes." It is not by chance that the unfilial met such an end, while the filial was preserved. Daliang, though grieving the loss of his brother, continued to care for his mother with redoubled devotion. His humble household became a beacon of virtue, a reminder that the greatest wealth is not measured in gold or grain, but in the righteousness of the heart. This story spread beyond the village, told again and again across generations. It was not just the tale of two brothers, but a teaching of life's deepest law, that what we sow we shall reap. Wealth without virtue cannot stand, but poverty with devotion can summon heaven's protection.